Break out your credit card, podcast listener, because the best and most popular, yes, both of those things, podcasts in the future are going to cost you to listen. Eek. Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. That's right, the short head of the future will be dominated by pay-to-listen content. Oh no! Let me break down in case you're not familiar with the term short head versus the long tail. If you look at a graph that shows popularity of things, which units in a particular catalog sell the most, which songs are listened to the most, which cars are driven the most, which places are visited the most, and you graph those out from right to left. On the left-hand side, you will notice that the elements on the left-hand side of this graph will have a higher number of people, and then it slowly starts to taper down. Actually, it tapers down pretty quickly in kind of a hockey stick formation. You've probably heard that term by now. Thank you, climate change. A hockey stick down, and then it slowly tapers all the way off to the right, and gets smaller and smaller and smaller. That's the long tail, but that thing up front is the short head. It's the 80-20 rule that's put in place for a graph model, which basically says that 80% of all of the listens or the consumption of a thing will go to 20% of the product. Okay, that's the short head I speak of. And when I say will be dominated by paid content, what I mean by that is in the future, and this mini-series I'm on right now, we'll talk about some future predictions I have for podcasting. In the future, the most common way that the most popular shows are, well, let me change the way I say that one. In the future, the shows that everybody's talking about, those that get the majority of listens, those that get the majority of attention, I believe those will be pay to access. Now, why do I think that? Well, first off, let me talk about what I mean by pay to access. Because we've tried this before. Many people are out there saying right now, yeah, Evo, we've tried paid access to podcasting, and it just fails miserably. Have you not seen what's happened recently with Luminary? Have you not seen how few people actually subscribe to things like Stitcher Premium? And I have seen those things. But I also have seen the larger context of media consumption over many years, and paid efforts which you pay to access, still tend to dominate. There will always be a place for free. And in fact, I think if you add up all of the numbers in this future, which I'm not putting a date on for intentional reasons, if you were to add up all of the downloads to non-premium content, they'll still exceed it. There'll be more people listening to non-paid content. That's always going to be the case. But again, the short head content, those water cooler conversations, those things everyone is talking about, my prediction is those will be behind some sort of a paywall in the future. It's possible that paywall will be individual, where you or each listener pays a certain amount of money to listen to that content. That's possible. I think it's more probable now, in 2019, as I make this prediction, that it will resemble much closer to a Spotify premium subscription, or a Netflix, or a Hulu, or an Amazon, or any of those, where you pay one fee to access a library of content, and you pay that fee on a monthly basis. I think that's where it's going to go, because that's the trend line now. That's the trend line right now. We are seeing already the realities of people who get into podcasting to make really amazing content and find out that it's really, really hard, and find out they have to find a way to make revenue come in. And in some cases, advertising works. But as I have stated before, the advertising model is kind of complicated and by podcasting. And I think that the reality is it won't always work for us. Because at some point in time, advertisers are going to scream, what am I getting for this value? And your download report doesn't do it for me because I'm really not convinced people are listening to your content. It's a much safer bet to say, well, we'll let the content generate its own revenue by the listeners themselves. That's complicated too. But that's changing. It's becoming a lot easier to do that. There are a couple of new apps on the marketplace that have just recently launched that are going to make it easier for you to subscribe to premium content with whatever podcast application you wish to use, what podcast listening application. You're not going to be forced. Well, you're forced today. You're forced today to go into a service like a Luminary, but in the future you won't be. There's a new crop of services available to podcasters to put their content behind a paywall and making it easier for your subscribers, your listeners, your viewers, I suppose, to consume your premium content. Again, with any app they choose. That is a trend that is happening. And for podcasters who have the ability to charge their audience for premium content, they will most certainly find a way to charge their audience for premium content. And for the big media companies, the large media producers, or the companies or the podcasters that get acquired by these large media conglomerates, you can clearly see that they are going towards premium content, where it is pay for access. That's the way that it is happening. And we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine with that. The industry isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's going to be better for us. And I know that sounds like I'm a crazy person by saying, why is it better for us? It's going to be better because that premium content will be well-funded, which is better content, which is more appealing to people who don't have patience for lack of content, which will effectively bring more people into the podcast listening ecosystem. And as more people consume the podcast ecosystem, if they find that those subscription services don't give them everything that they need, which they probably will, but they may decide to look elsewhere. Their curiosity may be piqued. These apps, these companies are going to try their best to make sure no one ever leaves their app. Look, Amazon Video doesn't want you to have a Hulu subscription, but a lot of us do. And they also recognize they have to play in other sorts of content. Same thing will happen in this space as well. There'll be crossover, there'll be spillover. People will move out of that silo, which is paywalled, into seeing other and listening to other content. And that's a good thing for us as podcasters. But it's going to have to cause us to up our game, which is a good thing as well. How is that not a good thing if you have to up your game? That's a great thing. If you have to up your game and I have to up my game and everyone has to up their game and the entire game of podcasting is upped, that's a very good thing. I think you will agree. So this week I'm doing an entire series of future predictions. This was number 1. I've got 10 of them I'm going through. So I guess it's more than just a week. It's like 2.5 weeks worth of content all about future predictions. 3 things before I bail on you. Check out the Flick.group, man. That's really grown quite a bit recently just for this show. Flick.group/podcastpontifications. Yeah, there'll be a link in the episode notes to it. Also, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra if you want to support the show, because I'm trying to up my game as well. And if you say, hey, good tips and advice, Evo, here's a coffee for you. You can buy it every single month. If you like, it'll be an automatic thing. Yeah, kind of cool. And then also, if you are a business and you need some help making sure that your podcasting efforts work and that you are ready for this new future in front of us, get in touch with me. evo@podcastlaunch.pro. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I shall be back tomorrow with yet another Podcast Pontifications. Cheers.